What's up, guys? It's Coach AK back with another Success Tip Tuesday brought to you by Transformed Health Initiative. So, on this Success Tip Tuesday, I want to talk about a certain mentality that many of us fall into based on our previous history, based on what we've heard, what we believe to be true, what we believe to be best. And I see this mentality handicap so many people for so many years, and it's just really tragic because we really feel like we're doing what's right. We really feel like we know, but this mentality, like I said, can be a huge handicap. So what is this mentality I'm speaking of? I've coined a term for it, but you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about if you try to better your health at any point in your life. And that is the "it worked before" mentality. Okay? It worked before mentality. So let me explain what this looks like. You have someone who, in past years, they went on, fat loss journeys, fat loss diets, wanting to improve their health. And so they used a certain way to get there. Okay. They used a certain type of diet, let's say low carb. Okay. We're going to pick on the low carb community for a minute. So they decided to go on Atkins, because it was popular at the time, or they went keto or low carb, or one of these variations of, low carbohydrate, no carbohydrate diets, and they had good success. Okay, let's say they lost 20 pounds over, however many months, and they felt a lot better. Their blood markers looked better, all that good stuff. So what people typically do is they say, okay, well, because I was so successful with this, and maybe I was unsuccessful with some other diet strategies, this has to be the only way for me. This has to be the answer because this is what worked. All right. And just logically, when you look at that surface level, it does make sense. If you've tried X, Y, and Z and it didn't work, but then you tried A over here and it did work, then maybe A is the way to go for you. And that could be true. But the reason why this can be a huge stumbling block for people is if we do something, regardless of how successful it is in the immediate and the short term, if we're not able to sustain those actions and sustain those strategies over a long period of time, we have to really ask ourselves, did it actually work to begin with? Because our goal is not to just get a little bit healthier for a month or so. Our goal is to have lifelong health. We should be wanting to make a change to where we're not just doing it so we're ready for our swimsuit on vacation, although that may be a goal and a drive to get there, but it's so we can continue every year to show up in our swimsuit, feeling comfortable, being healthy, avoiding disease, avoiding, all these different negative health effects from not taking care of ourselves. So that should be the ultimate goal whenever we embark on improving our health, is keeping our health improved, or at least maintaining the results that we achieved. And so that's why I don't really consider it as a success necessarily when we try a certain tactic. We have short-term success with it, but we're not able to sustain those actions. That's still kind of a loss in my book. So what I'm suggesting is that we move away from this mentality of what worked before, okay? Because just because it, like I said, just because it worked for a short amount of time does not mean that you were truly successful, because you're having to have the same conversation again about what I need to do this time. So, guys, I think that if we shift away from this, we're going to be a lot more successful. If we kind of open up our minds to different ideas and different options, we may realize that just because it worked, because we were able to grind it out and grit it out, that it was successful. However, this strategy over here that we haven't tried, or maybe we didn't do it correctly, actually ends up being much easier for us, much more simple, much more sustainable, and we can have even more success with this option than we did with this one that we think is the only way. Because a lot of people, they are unsuccessful with certain strategies, not because the strategy itself doesn't work, but because they weren't able to work it. They weren't able to do it. They weren't able to sustain it. Like, let's take like macro tracking, for example, and, energy balance and eating less than we burn. Some people, they don't go about it the right way. They don't do it correctly. And so they figure, well, this doesn't work for me, or, it's just too hard to sustain. And for some people, maybe it is too hard to sustain. However, for a lot of people out there, it's the best way for them because it keeps the most structure, the most accountability, the most discipline, and it keeps them knowing what they're doing at all times. And that's helpful for them, like myself. And so I say all that and also emphasizing the fact that if it is sustainable for you, it doesn't matter what the strategy is, that's probably what's going to be best for you. So can low carb work? Yes. Can, a vegan diet work? Yes. Can Mediterranean diet work? Yes. Can a low fat diet work? Yes. Can, calories in, calories out, macro tracking work? Yes. Can intermittent fasting work? Yes. But if you can't sustain those, it doesn't matter how successful or how many results or benefits it can provide if you're not able to do it for the long term. So, not to pick on the low carb community, okay, let me just say that if you really enjoy eating low carb, like you really like the food choices, you really like the way you feel, it's super simple and easy for you, it's something you can do long term, then that's probably the best choice for you. Let's take another example, like intermittent fasting. All right, intermittent fasting is another big one that's taken off in recent years. So a lot of people will have success with intermittent fasting. However, they're having to, again, grind and grit it out to do it. And so the moment that they get weak or they get tired or they reach their goal, they go back to eating throughout the day, and they have no sense of control now because the only success that they had was through intermittent fasting and restricting the amount of time that they have to eat. So once they take that restriction off, now there's nothing to hold them accountable. And so they go off the deep end and end up eating everything inside all day long. But if you're somebody who you just really do not like eating in the morning, like it makes you nauseous, it drains you, makes you tired, makes you sluggish, and you really just don't have an appetite until around lunchtime anyways, then intermittent fasting may work great for you because it already kind of fits your life and already kind of fits your personality. So that may be a viable option. Or if you just really don't like eating in the evening time because it messes up your digestion, your stomach doesn't feel good, you're not hungry, then again, intermittent fasting may be the way. But if you're just doing it because somebody else said it works, or you're doing it because you did it for a while and you had some sort of results through that strategy, but you weren't able to sustain it, you end up caving in, then you may want to rethink if that's the right option to go with. You hear other people talk about, I'm going to eliminate all sugar. When I eliminate sugar, I feel better, my inflammation goes down, my water retention goes down, I start losing weight a lot easier, I feel better, all these different things. And that's great and all, but if you like sugar and you're having to grit and grind it out in order to avoid sugar, how likely is it that you're going to be able to sustain that whenever you're around sugar all the time? It's not going to be very probable. So if you don't have some sort of control mechanism with sugar other than just completely avoiding it, and then you are around it all of a sudden, or it gets introduced, it's the holidays, birthday, whatever, and you decide I'm going to let myself have some because you've been so restrictive, because you have kept yourself from something that you want for so long, you're really playing a game with your genetics by introducing this thing, because now the chances of you spiraling off the deep end and just consuming all sugar you can get your hand on for a period of time, or just going back to eating how you were eating before removing sugar, aka removing a ton of calories out of your regular diet, now you set yourself up to go right back to where you were. And then now later on, you're going to have to look at cutting sugar again. And as you see, this is just a repetitive cycle that will never end unless we figure out something else that is sustainable. All right. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. Let's break free from the it worked before mentality. If it works for the long term, let it work. If not, there's so many different strategies and ways you can do it. You don't have to just do, hard hypertrophy bodybuilding style training to build muscle. There's other ways to do it. You don't have to go running just to get cardiovascular health improvements and improve your heart health and to burn calories. There's other ways you can go about it, guys. There's no just one way. There's no only one way that works. But there may be some ways that work better for you in the long term, and that's probably what you should choose. So whatever you do with this information, make sure you do something good for yourself, something good for your health, something good for those that you care about, and whatever you do, make sure you win on purpose. Talk at you next time.